Welcome to Tripping the Void with your host, Saraphine Hurley. Are you ready? Are you ready? Let's go. Good afternoon and good morning to those that are still in other places and probably almost next day in others. Welcome to Tripping the Void with me, Saraphine Hurley. And yeah, I know it's been a little bit since I've had a live show, but I've had a few things happen, but normally I don't let that get in the way because, I know need new content and need to keep things momentum going. And in this end of the year, I'm going to start bringing in actual people on my show besides myself and my other awesome hosts and hostesses. I have some stuff lined up for you and also into the next year. So that's going to be a few changes to Tripping the Voids. So they're happy changes. They're good changes. And once again, this is a live show today. So if you do want to call in and join in the fun with holiday horrors, and this is a part one, because I figured, since I love the holidays just so much, that the thing that I revel in is ultimate chaos. And it's not that I have a thing to watch the misfortune of others. It's that things happen. And when I see happy-go-lucky people with their heads shoved up their posteriors, I just kind of go, well, if that works for you, and I'm glad that you have a way to do that, but I just have to be a realist. And on that note, we've got holiday horrors, and we're going to talk about everything from absolute freaking chaos that happens in the world on holidays, because it's nonstop since we do live on a planet, and there's humans on it, to monsters and cryptids and all kinds of other things, even the paranormal. So I know what a shock it's Tripping the Void. So it's my show, so we're going to talk about anything we want to. So if you do have any suggestions or anything like that, you can feel free to contact me, Saraphine Hurley, at any of my social media or Late Night in the Midlands. Yeah, you can go ahead and call our number here is 202-559-7943 to call in today to talk about holiday horrors if you have a holiday horror story or have a take on some of the things we're going to talk about today. So before we get started, I thought that I would touch on saying thank you to our affiliates, since I don't always get a chance to do that since we run so late on time sometimes. And I know that's totally on me, but like to thank High Point Radio, 1620 AM, 100.5 of New Jersey, broadcast in New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia, WCET 101.7, Columbia, South Carolina, KOY 1230 in Phoenix, Arizona. We've also got KYAH 540 AM, Utah's Talk Authority, Daily Motion, TSL, Paranormal Radio, TalkStreamLive.com apps. We've also got hosts that have videos that you have available, like myself and others, on YouTube, TuneIn, Twitch, Facebook, iTunes, Open Eyes, Neely Productions Incorporated, Neely Worldwide Publishing, Amazon Alexa, and streamed and restreamed all over various other outlets via the lovely World Wide Web. So if you can Google it, you can probably find any of my videos or audio or my other colleagues here, hosts and hostesses here, because you do have your pick. And don't forget, we do have a free chat room that is available to you at lightnightinthemidlandsradionetwork.com. Just follow the links and sign up. We just ask that you sign up, and there you go. You got a free chat room to go to some new friends, maybe. You never know. Also like to thank My Patriot Supply, Trusted Self-Reliance, America's best emergency food, mypatriotsupply.com, spelled normally. So it says that they have up to a 25-year shelf life. So yeah, definitely going to check that out myself. So we go back to thinking about the holidays, and it's not that I want to be grim, because, holidays can be a time for family or get-togethers with friends or new family and friends, and it can be a really great thing. So I'm not taking a baseball bat to that. Don't get me wrong. I do like some aspects of the holidays aren't entirely terrible, and you have to think about putting yourself kind of, because I travel usually a lot, and well, I have traveled in the last year, but not to places where I normally go, mostly to family. But when you think holidays, I think family and extended family, and from ruined family meals to canceled flights due to really super crazy weather or overbooking, which is my favorite. Um, the holidays are definitely here. I mean, happy Hanukkah to those tomorrow who celebrate Hanukkah. And it's the first day of Advent for those who are celebrating Christian holidays. So happy holidays and happy welcoming to the craziness of December here. This season, I'm planning, like I said, to find the creepiest, goriest, most shocking things that I can find to make your season and mine brighter, even if it's bright just due to candy canes or slight blood tint. Slight blood tinting never hurts. Can make your lips a little more red, you know. But we were talking on Infinite Inquisition. Some of the lady hosts and myself, we were talking about holiday family things that can happen, and depressions and memories that we have from the past. And I realize that a lot of the things that I think about are they're good nostalgia, but some of it is just really super vivid. And then you check yourself and realize that it's like, wait a minute, that's not how I thought it was. It's not how I thought it was at all. So rechecking, I know a lot of people don't like to look back at some of the things, and I'm one of those people too most times, but this last year, actually these last couple of years, with my mother's health and lots of other things happening, it's made me have to basically take note of the things that have happened in my life and kind of see where things have been and where I'd like to see things go. And if you haven't done this, it's definitely kind of awesome to look at the things that you've done or the things that you need to do and kind of check them off the list. I'm not really a list person unless it comes to groceries, but putting yourself into perspective in the grand scheme of your life, especially as you're ending the year end, well, the end of the calendar year anyway, it just kind of gives you a new perspective on things, especially where I'm at in my life. And I don't know where you guys are at, but sometimes just putting a couple things down on paper where you can see it. And I'm not saying negative things. I'm saying things that you'd like to see done in your life kind of helps. And so, so happy holidays, beginning of the holiday season. I decided today that we were going to start with monsters and legends because it's a good place to start at the beginning, right? So from all across Europe, traditions have that monstrous beings or cryptids accompany St. Nicholas on his rounds. St. Nicholas, Santa Claus, Kris Kringle, Father Christmas, whatever you call them, either as mismatched pairings or standalone villains. So we're going to start with some things people might see. My grandparents were actually European. So I knew a lot of these already. So some of you may be already familiar. And for those who are not familiar, welcome to my weird world. And it was interesting to actually go through and make sure that I had all the information on some of these ladies and gentlemen that hang out around this time of year. So we're starting with the Whipping Father, or Père Fouettard. And if you'd like the spelling on that so that you can Google it, I'd be happy to give that to you. But if you just do phonetic, it'll probably just come up. But It's basically French for father whipper or old man whipper. Sounds like a fun guy to have at parties, right? He's a character who accompanies St. Nicholas on his rounds during St. Nicholas Day, which is actually the 6th of December, dispensing lumps of coal and or beatings to naughty children while St. Nicholas gives gifts to the well-behaved. So, ironically, our Yuletide story actually begins in Turkey. I'll pause so you can think about that a second. For one very important date, up to and including the Christmas holiday, Christmas is the feast day of St. Nicholas, which was actually the first noted one that we know of was between 270 and 343 AD on the 6th of December, approximately. Born to Greek parents on the southern coast of Patara, the 4th century bishop of Myra became known and venerated as the patron saint and protector of children. Also sailors, but mostly the patron saint and protector of children. So then we have we go over into where pear comes from. In Nord-Pas-de-Calais, Lorraine, and southern Belgium, Wallonia, on the night of the 5th of December, St. Nicholas leaves chocolates and sweets in shoes or socks for the ones who have said their prayers, been good to their parents, and have done their homework and chores all year round. So being nice to their parents, essentially. So the story of Le Père Fouettard is a whole nother level of crazy and absolute viciousness. Not many read seasonal tales or look up seasonal holiday tales centered on cannibalism, infanticide, or zombie kiddos. But this one does. So, how does a creepy figure with a name like Father Whipper fit into the St. Nicholas tradition? Well, there are several origin stories that have become popularized. One is entirely apocryphal, and the other is also perhaps fictional, but it roots in 16th century medieval siege in the eastern city of Metz. And excuse me for my pronunciation on some of these. I'm a little rusty on some of these names, so I actually had to teach my computer to say some of these words, which kind of surprised me. I'm like, aren't you a computer? You're supposed to know this. But so we're sieging in the 16th century medieval Europe, which is, I don't know, pretty metal. It's awesome. What's awesome, not awesome at the time, but awesome to think about. Very romantic. The first is a true tale which started to be told around 1150, involving an evil butcher who kidnapped 3 children, murdering them by slitting their throats, then carving the meat from their bones and putting them into a salting tub. Child jerky, maybe? I don't know. It keeps over the winter the meats. It keeps the salting tubs keep the meat from rotting, in case for those who have never had to live in colder climates and keep products around so that you could have them over the whole until spring and the thaw happens. So you can go to the store or actually go hunting where there's actually animals to hunt. So just when you thought this could get worse with the child jerky, St. Nicholas actually turns up at the door, and the butcher attempted to ingratiate himself to his saintly visitor by offering him his best cuts of meat. Being a butcher, and well, he just had 3 freshly butchered boys in his salting tub. So, well, win-win. So instead, St. Nicholas resurrected the boys from the dead. So zombie children, right? And delivers them back to their parents, seeing that he had an opportunity. The murderous, cannibalistic butcher decides to take the opportunity to repent for his sins, becoming Father Whipper, an eternal servant who keeps the bad children, funny air quotes, in line. So another interesting variant on Father Whipper relates to the 1552-53 siege of Metz, which I was talking about earlier, part of the war between Francis Henry II and the Holy Roman Empire The fighting actually lasted from 1551 to 1559, so a while. During the festive period of December 6th through Christmas, locals burned effigies of Holy Roman Emperor Charles V and dragged it through the streets. So, a group of tanners are said to have created the Father Whipper character and then based his physical appearance on the burnt effigy. So, why the Desaad-like name Father Whipper? So, Père Fouettard is awfully often depicted or described as a disheveled-looking older man in black robes or tattered clothing with either a black or a red beard. It depends on what part of the country you're from, who carries a martinet or a scourge-style whip. So it's a very ruddy-looking whip with tines and stuff sometimes at the end, or ratted leather at the tied to the ends to make the beatings just extra lovely. So Père is all ready to go. He's got his whip in his hand, or he actually carries, sometimes he's been said to actually carry sticks. But for the most part, when I lived in France, they really talked about him having a whip instead of having twigs. So he's a little more stylish with the whip, I think. But it sounds worse to whip a child with a whip than than with a stick. I don't know. The whole story is like, eh. But one of these is actually, we all have this base here on truth, and then we have the romanticism of Saint Nicholas taking on this person who's decided to repent for their sins by beating children for Father Christmas. I mean, wow, what a way to be repenting. It sounds like he loves his job, possibly. But really, it's the idea of getting gifts from St. Nicholas, which is overriding the emotion to be, bunny air quotes, good. Just think of how left out you'd feel if you just got a lump of coal and all your buddies are getting fruits and candy or small toys. I mean, that's enough feeling singled out and fearing that some decrepit ancient man is going to come after you and beat you with something other, or beat you period. But it's the scary part of some weird guy coming up to you and starting wailing on you because your parents ratted you out because you're horrible. But in all of these stories, your parents don't even have to say a thing because St. Nicholas is the one that tells on you. So in all of this, remember when I'm talking about people who hang out with Santa Claus is actually ratting you out. So is Santa Claus really good? Yeah, think about that for a second. Once again, this is a live show, so if you want to call in, it's 202-559-7943. And this is the day of the Krampus run. So I actually posted it to social media. A friend of mine actually posted it for me. So it was kind of cool to see that. It kind of runs alongside here. So if you ever want to see what it looks like, that they actually do this every single year. Krampus, also known not only by appearance, but other names like Knecht Ruprecht, Schmutzli, or Black Peter, lots of other names that I probably need to buy a vowel for. But just close your eyes and picture this momentarily. If you don't want to picture it, you can just listen to me. One way or the other. A towering figure that's over 7 feet tall, having bulging eyes and a whip-like tongue, pointed ears, and long, pointy horns on his head. He carries a pitchfork, or sometimes more traditionally, a bundle of birch switches, see it switches again, to menace children as he travels through town on a pair of mismatched feet, one cloven hoof and the other a gnarled bear-like claw, proudly displaying his half-goat, half-demon visage. This glorious creature has become so popular in recent times that he has his own comic books, major motion picture films, and just regular books. I know some people who have actually written about Krampus Krampus, and like Eric Werner, he's got an awesome book and art on Krampus as well. So if you haven't checked it out, Eric Werner, he's got some awesome books and art having to do with the subject. But where does Krampus come from? Krampus seems to be a reappearing character all over, especially mostly Eastern, but parts of Western Europe. But lots of speculation on actual origin. Some say he hails from the line of Loki, his daughter's child. Some say he's very much fawn-like and could be a hybrid. You never know, like a cryptid. Krampus is mentioned to be a demon, so it really kind of makes you think. So St. Nicholas did he enslave a demon and make him do his bidding for horrible children? You never know. But this is once again somebody who's hanging out with Santa Claus and maybe not right next to his side, but either going before or after, still thinking about it. This is originating in Germanic folklore as early as the 1600s. Actually, I found some accounts that were a little earlier than that. More wood cuttings and things like that. He was believed to accompany St. Nicholas on all of his earthly journeys. But I mostly found that Krampus does actually accompany Santa on occasion, but it's not usually side by side. It's usually either ahead or behind him. So he's not really in the view of Santa. He's scaring the crud out of the bad kids, or either scaring the good kids into being good, one of the two. So while St. Nicholas rewards the good children with gifts and sweets, Krampus doles out punishment to the wicked children who have strayed from the path of good. It says he takes care of his naughty list. And I'm like, okay. So the name Krampus is actually derived from Old High German word for claw. So children caught by Krampus are spanked, whipped, and even shackled to be spirited away in either a basket or a barrel to Krampus's lair. So once there, they receive further punishment until they are repentant. Absolutely. Some legends say that he keeps them for an entire year if they survive. So when we're thinking about Santa Claus and gift giving and St. Nicholas being, because they coincide and people think that they're the same person essentially. Were you aware that Santa Claus isn't the only magical gift giver that's associated with the Christmas holiday season? In Eastern Europe, there are a number of characters that are associated with Christmas. Most of them are not very nice, like Santa. But then again, like I said earlier, I'm asking you to think about it. Is Santa really a nice guy if he's ratting out bad kids to get horrified or beaten by an old crotchety dude, or chased around by a demonic half-man, half-goat guy that's towering? And I can only imagine, I would think it would be cool to see him on my doorstep, but that's just me. But I... a lot of these characters, when I was looking at the artworks, and I didn't actually forward a lot of these woodcuts and sketches to my producer, Katie Neely, because some of them were not just that they were probably too scary for a lot of people's tastes or gory, but how much can you really get away with when you're posting pictures of associated terrors that hang out and scare children and adults? Because we're going to get into that too, because it's not that if you're a child and you're good. Sometimes it's if you're entirely good, like as a human being. So we've got the Christmas witch. And I don't know if you've ever heard the tale, and we've got a couple of them on the list, but this one is one of the more obscure. Frau Pacerta isn't well known as Krampus, which is kind of a shame because this Christmas time goddess witch, all around terrifying woman, deserves a lot more mention because she's pretty awesome. Well, at least I think she is. She's a staple in the Alpine regions of southern Germany and Austria. Some of you, like I said, may already know, but let's get everybody else up to speed like we did with the other dude. So, also known as Bertha, she's also been called the Spinnstubenfrau, or spinning room lady. She's also often depicted with a beaked nose made of iron, dressed in rags, perhaps carrying a cane, and generally resembles a decrepit old crone like the other guy. But this old crone packs a mighty wallop and carries a long knife hidden under her skirt and robes. She also can bear a striking resemblance to the Scandinavian goddess Frigga, and both of them share one obsession in common: spinning. And I don't mean going to the gym. I mean spinning wool flax into thread. So this used to be very common practice. Some people still do it with the harvest and everything else. And a lot of women spend the winter months turning and spinning wool into thread for knitting or, yarns, things like that. And it's an awesome dying art. I wish that I could do it. But people were judged on their ability to be able to not only survive the long winters, but be able to turn out craft. So if you were a woman and you could just cook, or you were a woman and you could just do A or B, oh my gosh, you have to be able to do everything. So the more things you were capable of, the better. But you had to also be perfect. And that's kind of where we're going with this. Bertha is also into domestic neatness, home tidiness. Frankly, she's kind of judgmental about the state of your home, considering that she usually appears as a woman dressed in raggy-looking clothes as well. But she also can turn herself into a great goddess-looking creature. So a lot of people believe that she is a shapeshifter of sorts, but if she's a goddess, then she's a goddess, right? Goddess shapeshifter. If you're a goddess, you can do anything, right? So, legend has it that you'd better get all your flax spun by the 12th night, which is January 6th. For when the Christmas season was over, it would be time to set up the big upright loom, at which time you must have had enough thread to warp it and start your weaving. And that's what Frau Perchta's punishment for those lazy women who haven't finished all their weaving. Well, in Germany, Austria, Switzerland, there were numerous tales of this Frau trampling and even setting fire to half-spun fibers. And if you should really make her angry, like say, not only is your flax not spun, but your house is a complete, total annihilated mess because she so hates messiness. So she's a neat freak. And you failed to leave out a traditional bowl of porridge for her because, you've got to leave her something, right? Because if she's going to go white glove or white claw your house, you might as well leave her some watery, runny, the oatmeal with salt in it. For those of you who've had porridge, yeah, you can. It's an acquired taste. So her rampaging will extend far beyond your slovenly spinning room. And this is also for everything else. So she'll do nothing less than steal into your bedroom and disembowel you and replace your internal organs with rocks and straw. And that's as an adult. She's going to do that to you because you didn't leave out her porridge, your house looks like crud, and you don't have your spinning done. I mean, come on. I guess she's perfect. So But Bertha does more than just check up on your spinning. So she's a multitasker. In other legends, they equate Frau with the legend of the Wild Hunt and say that she flies through the night sky attended by an army of lost souls, including demonic-looking Perchten, her army of servants who are visually nearly indistinguishable from Krampus. So these guys look almost exactly like Krampus, but she's got a whole legion of them. The only way to know for sure is context. Krampus rides abroad at St. Nicholas Eve, while our doll over here, Perchten, tends more towards the Epiphany and the last 3 Thursdays before Christmas, also known as Bergtilnacht or Knocking Nights. Also among her army of the night are souls of the unbaptized children. So, legend has it, if you hear the wind and thunder roaring and rumbling through the mountains on the Bergtilnachts, you're really hearing the sounds of Perchta leading the wild hunt. So, another one of our Frau's names is Holly, a winter goddess whose name means shining or bright, hence her association with the Epiphany, or the shining night, on which the Star of Bethlehem had shone down. Obviously, for those of us who know. Her dual nature is expressed in the fact that both are evil or ugly. So even when she's beautiful, or Perchten, you both of whom you might find typical in Perchtenlauf or Perchten run the alpine regions of Europe. The pretty one are all well good, but honestly, I'm kind of a bigger fan of the evil one, and she's the one I love to fear in these days leading up to Christmas. With every passing moment, my anxiety mounts to try to finish. Because, women, and I know some guys too, or humans, will have a lot to do because this beginning of the season here, I don't even have a holiday tree up yet. I usually, at least by this time, have the box out. I don't even have the box out yet. But I did my floors the other day, so she would be happy with my floors at least. And so my floors are nice and shiny. My kitchen doesn't look like it had bears in it. But while I was moving stuff around in my kitchen, I was thinking to myself, cleaning and moving things, and it's like, okay, I'll straighten that glass out just a little bit more because I can visualize this crone sneaking into my townhouse late at night, running her withered, clawed fingers over the baseboards and tops of the cupboards, checking for dust. My imagination goes wild. So this January 6th, instead of complaining about the fact that, or happy that the holidays are officially over, why not celebrate Perchentag by telling your kids that they better clean up their rooms, or Frau will come and get them and disembowel them. Because kids like to be threatened like that to have motivation to do the things that they're supposed to be doing. Because in the legends, that it started out with her actually doing this only to children, but she actually does this to adults as well. So if all of y'all don't have your stuff together and you're messy, and even though you had your home filled with people and people from out of town or whatever, she doesn't give a flying broomstick about it. She wants everything to be as perfect as possible and as awesome as possible. And I just can't put my head around the fact that she would be even thinking about all of this, considering when they're talking about the lore and the legends and how goddess-like she is. There's one picture of her really looking like Frigga, and then the other ones she's really looking like a crone, like the typical crone would look. And in some of these little castings or legends of lore, where they talk about her appearance, she has one misshapen foot like Krampus does. So like I said earlier, she could be a shapeshifter, but I don't know why you would say shapeshifter and goddess in the same thing, because if you're a goddess, can't you kind of do everything? But that's just, I don't know. School me if I'm wrong. 202-559-7943. So next we have, through our little tour here, because it's funny that we've got our American traditional Christmas stuff and everything is just so happy and nobody ever talks about things that could happen. I mean, the worst that could happen to you when I was a child was that elves might come and try to steal you away or steal your presents. And in my family, elves and fae generally weren't always good things, and that you wouldn't get sold to the gypsies. The fae would ferry you away, or something else would happen to you. But knowing that your elders would threaten you with these mysterious creatures and beings or other humans that used to be regular humans, threaten you with their superpower or their whip and say, hey, if you don't pull it up, I'm gonna, Santa's gonna know because he sees you when you're sleeping. He knows when you're awake. It's kind of creepy when you think about it. Santa Claus is coming to town, that whole song, if you actually listen to the words. So the next time you sing that song, I want you to listen to the words you're singing, because it's really stalkerish when you sit back and think about it. It's like, wow, Santa is God. Hail Santa. But growing up in a family that different on both sides in mine, that you had the more Americanized version on one, and then you had the old school on the other, and people from your family group of friends telling you horror stories about these people who would come and either give you, because we got fruits and nuts and things in our stockings, my sister and I, when we were kids, in our holiday stocking, and not in our regular stockings, because that would just be weird and gross. But rarely did we get anything toy-like. It was usually, we didn't do stocking stuff or stuff like modern for probably until my father left for Yuzinki, Alaska. And that was when I was 16. So that was a long time. My family went to great lengths to make sure that we thought that Santa was real for the longest time. And it wasn't until later, obviously, when I was 16, I realized that why does Mom and Santa have the same wrapping paper? I had to think about that for a second. But, the options are often interesting on that, because, Santa could have given the items to my mom and then Mom could have wrapped them, because Santa is really low on time, right? So that could have been an option. I mean, at my grandmother's house, my mother's mother, we would hang out and my grandfather would distract us. Like we'd literally go out to the rec room and look out the window, and Grandpa Jack would be like, oh, can you see Rudolph? And I'm like, okay, so I'd be gullible. I mean, I was the kid that cried when people stole my nose. So go ahead and laugh. So we'd go in the rec room and then we'd come back, and then I don't know, I'd say between a half an hour and 45 minutes later, Grandma's doorbell would go off and we'd go running to see, and there'd always be presents at the doorstep. And we never knew who, and my mother to this day will not tell us who actually left the gifts. That it was Santa Claus. And we still, as a family, even though we're all American and everything. We still give Santa gifts to everybody. I don't know if that's a practice of yours, but we still do. But out of all the things and all of the running things that could be happening, American Christmas is so much fun and happy and everything, even with our Christmas parades. And then we go to Europe and find out that Christmas isn't always happy. Be happy you've got your fruits and nuts, because you could be getting coal and beatings, right? So another part on this walk down holiday horror, Gryla and the Yule lads, which in the mountains of Iceland live terrible ogres. A lot of people translate it to being trolls, but they're not. They're more than mountain trolls. They're bigger. Gryla and Lepelui, along with their, at least, as far as we know, 13 offspring. They could be more, known as the Yule lads, and one terrible giant cat, which I will talk to you about in a few. To this day, Gryla and her husband have been used to frighten children when they misbehave. And most Icelandic children know that being naughty can land them in Gryla's bag. The Gryla legend has been successfully frightening the people of Iceland for literal centuries. So documentation about her goes all the way back to the 13th century. But this custom was put to a halt in 1746, so it was kind of a pause hold, when a public decree was actually passed prohibiting the practice to avoid traumatizing young children further. This from the country that brings you some of the best black metal bands on the planet doesn't want to traumatize children. Just saying. So it's just an observation. It's not a judge. It's observing. So these giant ogre-like creature humanoids or cryptids, whatever you want to call them, Gryla and her husband are said to live up in the mountainous caves along with the Yule lads and the huge black Yule cat, which is another child abuser and abductor that goes after all those who don't get new things before Christmas. Her husband is considered basically to be a lazy creature and kind of a dope who basically resiliently hangs on, even though he just has a lackluster look about everything. But there's numerous stories, there's poems, there's songs, plays, and every year people tell stories of this ferocious family. The most hideous mountain ogres that ever existed in Iceland are these people, Gryla and her husband, who present an overwhelming threat to children. So it makes me wonder where this actually came from. In all of my research, knowing about these guys, I'm like, I never truly found a real origin story. So if you know a real super origin story beyond they come from the mountains, I'd like to know how they actually came to be. But I know there's other things besides, but it would interest me to know if there was origin beyond that. But having them being an overwhelming threat to children, when they became parents of the Yule lads, Gryla and her husband, Gryla has said to have had a sharp sense of hearing and gained the ability to detect the cries from naughty children all of the year round. During the days of Advent, she leaves her cave and comes down from the mountains in order to hunt for children and collect her meal. Legend has it that her favorite dish is a stew that she makes. Just out of naughty children, and that she has an insatiable appetite for stew or children. I'll leave that up to you. But their spawn, which their spawn actually comes up long before they actually do. So you have to, if you want to Google it, you have to pedal backwards, because Gryla is usually just the one when they talk about her being this horrible, scary mountain ogre person who eats kids. And her children, the Yule lads, are far well known than she is, because people more talk about the Yule lads now than Gryla herself. So the 13 Yule lads come down from the mountains. Well, I guess they still live with their parents, one by one in December. So the first one arrives on December 12th, and the last one on December 24th. The oldest tale of these lads tells stories of their wickedness and criminal nature as they raised havoc in every household around the country. In those days, they did not bear any resemblance to the world-famous and likable Coca-Cola, blah, 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 American Santa Claus, a descendant of St. Nicholas, the patron saint of children and sailors, but being descendants of mountain trolls, ogres, humanoid creatures that are super scary, apparently, and gigantic. So these guys are said to be not only evil, maniacal pranksters who come down to steal and tease and frighten people, especially children, but also adults and animals. So traditionally, children place a shoe in their window, preferably in the bedroom window, the last 13 days before Christmas, because every night one Yule lad comes to visit, leaving sweets or a small gift or a rotten potato, all depending how that particular child has behaved during the preceding day. Each morning, anxious kids get up exceptionally early, because I know I did, exceptionally early to see what the Yule lad had brought them. So each Yule lad had a unique name and a specific thing, and will behave to this idiosyncrasy in their particular manner every single time, according to. So we're going to have all 13 of them, and I'm going to tell you what they do. Because we go from that one day on the 12th to December 24th. And boy, was this hard to translate. So the sheepcoat clod, which is the first Yule lad, arrives from the mountains on the 12th. Sheepcoat clod, or stiff legs, tries to suckle milk from the ewes, which, in case you didn't know, ewes are sheep of the female variety, in farmers' sheep sheds or barns. So this was, however, difficult for him. So he would go limping around, creeping around the house. Of course, these guys are all creepers. If you see pictures of them, they're running around trying to be creepy and scary. And this first guy is going to come and steal all of the milk from your sheep. And I would probably venture to say cows if you had milk cows. So, but I can only see that they're just trying to make it more creepy by talking about why it would be hard for him because his legs are kind of on the stiff side. His brother, Gullygawk, on December 13th, it's Gullygawk's turn. He was in the habit of sneaking into cow sheds and slurping the foam from the milk in the buckets. He didn't actually drink the milk. He just drinks the... So those of you that have never been to a farm, when you milk a cow into a bucket or actually get fresh milk from a cow, it gets this thick layer of stuff on the top of the cream, and it kind of creates this bubbly, foamy skin. So he's drinking that rich, foamy skin from the cow milk buckets. So he's got high cholesterol, I would venture to say. So I don't know how long he's going to live, if he's going to live ad infinitum or if he's going to, there's going to have to hire somebody else. So his brother, Stubby, the third Yule lad, arrives on December 14th and is called Stubby because he is hobbity. He's small. He grows under, I don't know, they're talking that he's, I would say, I'm not going to give you the conversion. I'm just going to say he's probably, if they're kind of humanoid and their parents are huge, but they're not as huge, that he's got to be like 3 or 4 feet tall. He goes under the name of Pan Scraper because he likes to snatch bits of burnt food from frying pans. So they actually talk about him going into your home, creeping around and doing whatever damage he can. But the other thing that he's going to do is go to the cupboards. So if you haven't washed your pans, he's going to help himself and be eating off of your gross pans. So I don't know how that would be scary. I'd be like, yeah, I'm going to leave those out. He can knock himself out. Spoonlicker is his brother. Well, they're all brothers, but this is the next one. Spoonlicker comes down from the mountains on the 15th of December. In the past, he would sneak into houses and lick wooden spoons or ladles, so to stir the pots. So I know that my mother used wooden spoons for a super long time until my sister and I told her to quit using wooden equipment because it can give you salmonella. But I would venture a guess if they're still threatening with this legend, then I would say that they come in and probably try to lick the color off of the spoons and utensils that you're using. And of course, if you hadn't already guessed it, because we had the pan licker, we've got a pot licker, because depending between them, they all have certain one things that they do. They're like a one-trick pony that does trickster stuff on the side. So they only do pots, spoons, and then, we've got pot licker here, or scraper, which is kind of like his earlier brother, but he likes to take the unwashed pots and licks the remains from the inside. So I would say that he's not really a leader, he's a follower, since he's got a brother that already does kind of the same thing. It's all semantics at this point. But then he's got his other brother, Bowl Licker. So if you lick bowls, on December 17th, Bowl Licker arrives, so you guys can party together. In the olden days, Icelanders used to eat their meals from wooden bowls that they sometimes kept underneath their beds or on the floor, because even up until recent times in some regions, a lot of things are more precious than you think. And this is something that was an epiphany to me, going and living somewhere else other than America, is that a lot of people don't have a lot of things. And so people keep their stuff to themselves. They'll clean their bowls, or they'll take their food to the rooms. Let's say they work in the mines because they live in the mountains, or they're farm hands. And so they'll go and grab their evening meal and be social, but they'll keep their stuff underneath their bed or within their personal area, because a lot of times their areas are shared. If there's a larger space or a smaller space, they have, they just keep their stuff all with them. So that's what makes it more creepy, is that if you're keeping bowls and things under your bed because you want to make sure that it sticks with your person. So Bowl Licker would hide under your bed. So he would actually hang out, go underneath your bed and stay until you put your bowl on the floor or under the bed. And then I guess he grabs it and just licks the insides clean, which is all right if that's what you like to do. The next brother who arrives on December 18th as the 7th Yule lad is Door Slammer. It's literally Door Slammer, who comes, and he always made a lot of noise when he walks around. He likes to slam doors and stomp his feet. and knock on walls or such that people would get hardly any sleep at all. So when he comes, he's going to make sure that he's knocking on the windows, that he's knocking on the doors and slamming doors shut and open. That rumor has it that he's the brother that's still basically doing this and more, because he has a bad habit of doing this, and apparently he's addicted to door slamming. I thought that was interesting that he would admit that he has an addiction, being an ogre and everything. That's pretty cool. It's pretty progressive for an ogre from the mountains in the middle of BFE Europe. On December 19th, Skyr Gobbler. I'm not making it up. His name is Skyr Gobbler. His favorite is Skyr. It's an Icelandic dairy product. So he used to steal into the pantry and gobble up all the skyr out of the skyr tub. So for those who don't know what skyr is, it's kind of like, without getting too gross, it's stuff that you would use to cook with. It's kind of buttery, but it's really thick and just look it up, SKYR, skyr. His brother on the way out is coming, Sausage Snatcher, literally Sausage Snatcher, the 9th Sausage Snatcher, who arrives on the 20th. He absolutely loves sausages and tries to steal and devour them whenever he has the chance. So if it's the 20th, I would be like not having any sausages, or so no hot dogs, sausages, anything of the sort, because the Sausage Snatcher is going to come and steal your sausages. The Window Peeper. So Window Peeper comes on the 21st. We can only guess what he does. This Yule lad was not as greedy as most of his brothers. I guess he's probably shy, I guess. So he just liked to peep through windows and look for something interesting. But sometimes he nicked the toys that he saw. So he would see nice shiny toys, or he would see little things that he would like to steal. So he's kind of a peeper klepto, I would say. But for the most part, it's just more that he peeps, and he doesn't really go into the house unless he sees something specific that he likes. So he's very well-rounded for an ogre. He knows what he wants. And then his brother Door Sniffer comes around on the 22nd, easily recognized by the huge nose. He loves the smell of cookies and leaf bread, and could smell them a mile away when they were being prepared for the Christmas holidays. And of course, he always steals very many of them. So his brother Meat Hook is the next one. St. Thorlak's Day, December 23rd, is the day of Meat Hook's arrival. He's crazy about meat, and he would lower a long stick through the chimney to snag a smoked leg of lamb, or whatever else you have, hanging from the rafters or from the pot. So yeah, people, even to this day, who live in either higher regions or like Alaska, you'll see smoked houses and things like that where they hang fish or other meats, and so that they dry out and get cooked and things like that. So people would, some people would choose to steal them, but this guy definitely is obsessed with meat, so he's going to go and stick his meat hook where it's not wanted and just take whatever he wants because, well, apparently his mother, Gryla, doesn't feed them very much. And the final brother, Lucky 13, is Candle Baker. He arrives on the 24th of December. In former times, candles were the brightest lights available to most people. A lot of people either made candles themselves, or there weren't really a lot of ways to purchase them, so you would trade for them. Now, obviously, you can go to the dollar store and get candles, but this guy, poor candle baker, the candles were so precious that all the children longed to have their very own candle for Christmas. I don't know about you guys, but at my mom and dad's, because my dad was Roman Catholic, or Russian Orthodox Catholic at the end of his life, and my mom's Protestant. All of our festivals when I was a kid had candle lighting ceremonies, and so I always thought it was the coolest thing, and I felt like such a grown up to get to hold a candle on Christmas at church. I mean, my mom would be playing and everything, so it was kind of fun that my sister and I got to mess around with candles. It's one of the one nights of the year where it was so crowded in the church that we didn't get caught doing anything. But candles. This guy, candle baker, he so longed for a candle, although it wasn't because of the light that he liked candles, but the delicious tallow that they were made from. Today, some Icelandic children leave a candle for their friend by the shoe in the window so that they can have a merry and bright Christmas. So instead of having the candle baker come and steal their candles, they actually leave a candle for candle baker so that, I mean, that'd be a good way to get out of, you know, your lack of chores, or if you were snotty to your parents or something, or if you weren't saying your prayers like a good kid or whatever, to leave, hey, why don't I give you a candle and you can give me a treat? I've been a little bugger the whole year, but I'm going to give you a candle. I thought it was amusing. So on to Grella's kitty cat. Gryla's kitty cat, which is also known as Holakaturin. I say that 10 times fast. Or Yule cat. It's just easier that way. Trust me. Is a huge, vicious creature that lurks in the snowy countryside, waiting to devour people who have not received, wait for it, new clothes to wear for Christmas. Who hasn't gotten new clothes for Christmas? Who? I mean, it's dreaded when you're a child. You're like, it's squishy, it's clothes. So, you know, rattling boxes and poking presents under the tree, trying to guess with anticipation with your sibling, if you had any siblings, or just sneaking around under your parents' or grandparents' nose. Wonder what that is. Oh, yeah, that's definitely socks or pajamas. So no one is really super certain where the scary cat idea did come from, but the clothing tradition is well documented in Icelandic history. So this is according to the National Museum of Iceland. In rural societies, employers rewarded members of their household with new garments and new sheepskin shoes. So these gifts were a prize for doing good work, encouraged everyone to do work hard and lead up to all these days to Christmas. So, because a lot of people take time off, or they have family visiting, even back then or even now, that people have family coming in from other countries, or they have, you know, it's a whole month of celebration. So, you have work to do, and a lot of places in Iceland are not only the rural, but you are going to either be a fisherman, or you're going to be a farm person, or there's lots of other things that you can do. You can work for the train or whatever, but pre-train, you're going to be fishing or farming or working the land. And so what do you need for that? You usually don't have to change your clothes all too often, because you're wearing overalls or heavy clothing so that you don't get stuff all over nice clothes. You're going to be wearing farmy clothes where you can get muddy and cruddy, right? So Christmas, and to this day, Icelanders still find it important to wear new clothes on Christmas Eve when the celebrations begin, because devoured by the Christmas cat is said about those who don't do so or don't receive new garments as gifts. Now, the Christmas cat stalks the countryside, lurking either the countryside, watching you go to and from either your homes or to the places that you're going to go, where you're visiting. And it's like, he's like the high fashion cat, because he's looking to see if you've got your new clothes. So this is like fashion police in Uber mode. It's like, if this cat doesn't see that you've got new clothes, or you haven't gotten new clothes for your children or the rest of your family, the cat will actually go into your house and kill all of you and eat all of your food that you had for Christmas, or he will just eat all of your food. And in some legends, he just looms through the countryside, um, eating random people who don't have new clothes on. So he's a judgy fashion police cat. So if you really think about it that way, it's like, so you've got stanky clothes on, and so fashion cat's going to attack you. And this cat is supposed to be like of immense proportions and is really scary looking. He's usually depicted as a black cat or a shadow cat or a shadowy type cat. And his murderous intentions have been quite validated by people talking about how he disembowels and tears up his victims. He doesn't essentially eat them all. He just tears them up because, oh my gosh, that shirt is just heinous. So you got to die, obviously. And then I'm going to eat all of your food because I'm a cat and I don't wear pants. So that makes a lot of sense. So he can afford all the calories at holiday time because he's a cat. He doesn't have to wear pants or skirts or anything like that. He could if he really wanted to, because he's a gigantic cat that belongs to a family of insane ogres that like to kill people. So, well, at least the parents like to kill people. It's more like the Yule lads like to mess with you a lot and do your cutlery and your pots and pans and bowls, plates without asking, which is okay with me. If you want to come and wash my dishes, I'll let you. Just don't do it with your tongue. That would be weird. So, we're going to go into a figure here that actually is seated with an actual background in history, like most of these do, with the exception of the ogres. I don't really have an origin story for them, except for a lot of people, even until this day, actually believe they exist or tell their children that they do. So, or I can see somebody telling their partner, yeah, I'm going to get nailed by the Christmas cat if I don't get new clothes, because I would totally use that as an excuse to get new clothes. I don't see why not. But this guy, Hans Trapp, is another anti-Santa figure from French-German border region of Alsace-Lorraine. Legend basically says how Trapp began as a very wealthy man, greedy and evil. But he was so rotten that he was actually excommunicated by the Catholic Church, because apparently it was a rumor that he sold his soul to Satan. I was told, actually verbally told, that he, by a family member of my own, that he just served Satan. He didn't really sell his soul to Satan, because you can serve Satan without selling your soul. It's possible. Trust me. So he was excommunicated by the Catholic Church for actually having been involved somehow. I don't know how somebody would have found out, but it seems interesting to me that would be open, apparently, considering the time frame. So now, beyond redemption, Trapp was exiled to the forest, but still his evil was definitely felt through the land. Disguising himself as a scarecrow by stuffing straw into his clothing, he began to prey on children. One day or so, the legend says, Hans Trapp was about to eat a small boy he had captured when God, Big G, fed up of his evil doing, killed him with a bolt of lightning. All right, Odin. However, this was not the end of Hans Trapp. He continued to roam the earth dressed as a scarecrow. Like Krampus, Hans Trapp teamed up with St. Nicholas, but to earn redemption, not to be in servitude because he was doing, well, they don't really say that Krampus is getting anything other than his jollies, but other than, the Whipping Father, who is actually fought his penitence, and he's doing his good deed with the St. Nicholas to cure the children of their evil deeds by beating, because the morale will only improve if the beatings continue, because that's just how it works, right? So he, after the bolt of lightning was to kill him, was still roaming the earth dressed like a scarecrow, which I A for effort. So while Saint Nick awards presents to the virtuous, Hans Trapp tries to persuade the naughty children to mend their ways and be virtuous, unlike him. So he's trying to basically go, don't be like Hans, be like Santa Claus. It's like you'll get hit by a bolt of lightning, but it's if you're able to see the picture I actually have of it's actually one of the more popular pictures of what Hans looked like or looks like as his alter ego. Hans Trapp, actually, his historical origins is his actual name is Hans von Troth, a very short late 15th century German knight with a terrible reputation. So his reputation preceded him, and so yeah, I'll just go on from here. Von Troth had actually endless amounts of land, castles on the German side of the border with France, and was a thorough nuisance to the church and lands alike. So he went out of his way, basically, to be a pain in the rear, which, is admirable for the time frame, because you had to ride around on a horse or walk at the time and make yourself a nuisance. So it actually took some maximum effort to go out there and let your presence be felt and known. So historically, von Troth was involved in a land dispute with the local abbot. As part of the feud, he ordered the Winslater River blocked, depriving the actual nearby town of Weissenberg of its water supply. When the abbot complained, von Troth basically violently and deliberately tore down the entire dam, which flooded Weissenberg and destroyed its economy in 1491. So he was absolutely motivated, this guy. He was like, yeah, heck with you guys. I'm going to do what I want. Way before Rick James was doing it. So 1491, von Troth even managed to get himself excommunicated. This is historical. He excommunicated after the same abbot, the abbot, complained about him to the Pope. And von Troth basically refused, put his feet down, kicking and screaming, to go to Rome to give an account of his behavior, because he's like, you know what? If I did it, I did it. If I didn't, and why would I want to follow this little pisher around? Because this guy is walking around talking stuff about me, and I already did what I did, obviously. So why would I have to go and tell everybody about it? You already know. So, like I said, he gets an A from me. Von Troth's sinister appearance, mildly destructive behavior, I'd say he's more of a political figure, and excommunication from the church all became mixed up in myth after his death led to the creation of the Hans Trapp character as a warning to children on how not to live their lives. So don't stir the abbot, do not mess with the church, and don't be going flooding the entire township, because, flooded villages and all, even if you are well muddied and all of that, you can't just go around doing what you want, because apparently it's, even if you own lands, it's frowned upon. So the end of the real Hans Trapp was not really any gruesome mystery, though, because he actually died quietly from natural causes, basically, at his castle in Bergsvarstein. So, which I actually had to teach my computer how to say that. Not that I can give it any due, but And it's got more than 3 syllables and 18 letters. Uh, I guess even the computer's confused. But like I said, there's more on Von Troth. If you ever want to look him up, there's quite the story, because he definitely he did what he wanted to. And like I said, for me, that's kind of an admirable quality, but upsetting the abbot and the entire township, I don't know if that's always a good thing to do. So don't be like Hans or Von Troth, and try to be a little bit more PC if that's your thing. Don't try to go against the grain, especially if you have a castle. Oh my God, should you do something wrong and do something that you actually want to do? And yeah, they make it sound like it is this horrible, horrible deed that he did, when it makes me think that out of the deeds that the abbot had carried out politically, like the rumorization and everything else, that he created an urban legend out of that. And who's to say? Because even to this day, people have said, and there's actually YouTube videos where they believe that they've actually seen him, the scarecrow creature creeping through the wilds, not just during Christmas holiday, but fall and winter, creeping around, scaring people and generally doing whatever he likes whenever, but more on an evil level, not like I'm just going to do what I want because the land's mine, but now I'm just going to do what I want because I'm a jerk and I can, so birth of urban legends and all. But I believe that a lot of things we put out into the world unknowingly, some of us know that we're doing it, and some of us don't realize that we're actually casting a spell as we speak. So think about that the next time you talk crud about somebody. They could end up an urban legend, and you could be at the end of the stick, the one that you don't want to be handling. Our next character is a little on the interesting side, and I chose it just because it is it's gothic awesomeness. Mary Lloyd, the skeletal Welsh horse. So this is a Welsh skeletal zombie horse that you actually have to beat in a battle of wit and words and sometimes rhyme or song. So in Welsh folkloric traditions, Mary Lloyd, a horse skull basically that visits your home around Christmas. It looks basically like a horse zombie because it's a horse skull on a stick with whatever accoutrement they decide to put on. So it can be a friendly zombie looking horse with ribbons and laces and googly eyes, or it can be a scary looking zombie horse. So the legend has it that it's people say that it's the Gray Mare, but it's more Gray Mary is what it translates to. But if this horse should visit your home around Christmas time, you must best it, or you must allow it inside. So Mary and her group go from house to house and pub to pub, trying to gain access by performing a series of verses or song or whatever. The inhabitants would reply with their own verses in a battle to outwit Mary and her gang and prevent them from entering. So eventually, she'll actually be let in, as this confers luck on the household for the coming year and scares out any unwanted things from the previous year because of the obvious taxidermy visage of Mary the Grey, or Grey Mary, because the old Grey Mare. Once inside, more songs are sung by the group, and they're given basically drinks and food. So they're going door to door trying to get in, but they've got to get clever enough, and you have to beat them or her and her gang in order to keep them out. So if you're that good, then I don't know how this could go bad, because you're basically going to go into a rap battle with head to head with a zombie horse. That'd be cool. So let's go have a rap battle of wits. Can you see that? Eminem and 8 Mile would have a completely different ending, wouldn't it? So the food, the dance, there's dancing, lots of merriment. So Mary often becomes quite mischievous and actually takes a particular fancy to any young women, usually chasing them and generally causing trouble. But the basis of the story is that it's a folk tale. It is something they actually do on a social level, almost like caroling along the lines, but different. And that the end result is to bring good luck to your pub or your household or your business, whichever they've gone to. So people still today make a horse figure from horse's skull with decorative ears and eyes attached. They adorn it with colorful reins, bells, and ribbons, and wrap it with a white sheet that is carried around like on a pole, about horse height. Grey Mary and his party always go door to door, singing and challenging the families inside. And it's, I just think that in the end, that's just cool. I mean, the only sinister thing about this is that there might be some shenanigans, but other than that, I don't know what shenanigans is in Welsh. If you do, let me know. But shenanigans and merriment and probably drinking and lots of food. But other than that, I don't see why it would be bad. But that's me. Choices. Next we have La Befana. And in Italian folklore, La Befana is a witch, so another Christmas witch, so at least I got 2 of them today, who brings good children treats on the morning of the Epiphany, January 6th. But if you're bad, look out. You might wake up with a lump of coal, because that's the worst thing that could happen to you. La Befana has been flying around the world on her tattered broomstick, swooping down chimneys and delivering sweet or sooty judgments on little boys and girls long before Santa Claus, St. Nicholas, could even grow his goatee properly. This witch has been in the Italian tradition at least since the 8th century. The 8th century as part of the Epiphany. So this is a while. So in Italy, the Epiphany actually marks the official end of the Christmas season, commemorating the day when the 3 wise men arrived at the manger bearing gifts. Every year, the occasion is celebrated with living nativity scenes, a great procession through the city center, and lots of pastries and sweets, things like that. The arrival of La Befana. So she actually shows up at these ceremonies. According to the story, the 4 figures decided to be intertwined. That they were. So we're talking about 4 figures in Christmas. What would that be? So we've got the 3 wise men, and we've got the Christmas witch. So we've got a Christmas witch and the 3 wise men. A lot of people say that the backstory on this is that La Befana actually had a baby herself, and that she loved her child so much, and she actually tragically lost her child, and then went seeking out the Christ child because she was so insane because of the loss of her child that she sought out Jesus. Makes sense, right? So according to the story, when the Magi happened upon La Befana early on during their quest, she charitably hosted them for an evening in her humble but cozy place of residence, cottage, shed, barn. The next morning, they invited her to accompany them to Bethlehem, she decided that she was busy doing other things, and she declined their offer at first. But they decided to be on their way because, that they've got to get their gift to Jesus, obviously. So she had second thoughts after they had left. So she quickly decided to fill a basket with gifts for the baby and set off on her own. Although she followed the same star, she was unable to find the manger before the wise men did on January 6th, the Epiphany. So today, La Befana continues to travel the world on Epiphany Eve, searching every house for the child and leaving candies and chocolates for the good children and just coal for the bad ones in her wake. So if you see a crone in the sky on her broomstick, because she does fly the skies, especially in Italy, looking for children. So I guess that she was made to be this eternal wandering woman who serves the children of Italy, or Italian children, sweets and things over the Christmas holiday for Epiphany, because she basically declined the Magi, the wise men, on their journey, and decided to venture out on her own. And so her penitence is to wander the world on her broomstick, leaving random pastries and candies. It doesn't entirely sound horrible, but at least she's not child eating, and she's the only thing that La Befana has that's scary about her is her appearance. I mean, you would look that way as well if you lived that long and didn't have like the Fountain of Youth, or you weren't a god or something like that. I'm sure she could glamour herself if she wanted to, but there's probably something that prevents her, I'm sure, since it's kind of a religious epiphany type tale. So I decided to round up because we're heading in the direction of the disturbing anyway, and we're kind of rounding off. So I figured to go with disturbing holiday traditions. I know a lot of people think about things that are odd to us that probably aren't so odd to others. I know that you've probably gone to a friend or a relative's home and you're like, wow, you guys really do that? So we don't do that. I've never heard that. It's like, okay. So everyone has different holiday traditions from, Hanukkah, Kwanzaa, Christmas, whatever you celebrate, you'll even other holidays in between here and before. Some of us eat treats, we drink eggnog, we decorate trees. And this is going to sound horrible, but we're rounding off on the disturbing. So I did warn you. Some people actually cover themselves in feces, threaten to murder children, and foster racism and classism in their hearts. It sounds really crazy, but some of these traditions that we have throughout the world, it's like, wow. And I thought that it was that's got to be like a Snopes thing. Nope, it's real. Different strokes and all that. But so we're going to end off our couple hours here on Tripping the Void with creepy Christmas traditions from around the world. And like I said, you've been warned. I didn't say they were pretty. Some of them are pretty regular, but this guy is definitely a little more regular than most. The nativity scene is a Christmas tradition all around the world. In Catalonia, though, they do it just a little bit differently. For one thing, the whole nativity model involves the whole town of Bethlehem, not just the manger. So there are a ton of characters that you have to get or put in place so that you have the whole scene. If you ever watched your grandmother put out a nativity, like my grandmother bought the manger scene, actually wound up and played music. She bought the donkeys. She bought Mary and Joseph. I think it was like something that came from Macy's originally. I think long, like back in the 40s or 50s or something. But from the time that we've been putting out manger scenes, they've all been that you have to put them out piecemeal. And I guess since that beginning of time where we've been memorializing the nativity for those who participate in that, that you have Mary and Joseph, and you can't forget Jesus, but there is one more thing that they do in Catalonia. The caganer, which basically translates roughly, and I'm just going to say pooper because I'm not going to say the other word on the air. And the name is accurate. I checked it. He's the one guy in Bethlehem who had the misfortune to be moving his bowels during the birth of Jesus and is now memorialized that way for all of time. Because their nativity scenes are so much larger, finding the Cagner is Cockanier is a popular game in Catalonia. Kind of like the biblical themed three-dimensional fecal-philiac Where's Waldo. So, which makes no difference to us. We've always played games like that anyway. Where's Waldo, not the other. Although traditionally the Cagonier is a peasant with a red hat, kind of looking gnomish or like Pinocchio almost. But nowadays you can actually buy the Cagoniers that resemble almost anything you can think of. Like there's nuns, there's popes, there's George Bush, Santa, even Trump, Barack Obama, the Queen, things like that you can get. So they do have a sense of humor. I guess you have to. But in case you're thinking that there's just some weird niche tradition that was started by a couple and it got viral, no. This has actually happened for a long time, and a super long time. The Catalonian equivalent of frat boys, I guess. Think again, no. In 2005, there's actually a case in Barcelona City Council actually tried to leave the Cagonier out of the city's nativity scene, and everything just broke loose. Anything. A massive Save the Cagonier campaign was actually started. You can actually look this up. There were signs and everything. People were freaked out that some guy going to the bathroom in the corner of the nativity scene, Where's Waldo style, was going to be left out of a traditional nativity scene. Just think about that for a second. And this has been happening for a long time. So, it was basically a media flood that happened. It was all over everything that was multimedia and they saved it, and it was not taken out. So they, even I guess in Barcelona, you have the right to have the government cave to overwhelming demand for a guy man shitting next to Jesus. I mean, seriously. I don't get it. But I can see the whimsy of that. I can totally see the whimsy of having the Where's Waldo poop guy. I can totally see that. It takes the whole solemnness out of the nativity and really makes you in the moment for a second. And then you find the Where's Waldo dude. There you go. And it just gets better because, Spain is known for holding the world's biggest lottery and the version of April Fool's Day all around Christmas time. Down to their throat-slashing Santa-like figure. Spain is basically the Japan of Christmas. And now, here is Tio de Nadal. It's a log that poops out presents. I cannot even make this up. Seriously. It's not weird, strange wording or overstatement. It's a game that you beat the log until it voids or empties its bowels, and then you pick up and cherish its fecal matter. So there really is a Christmas poo. I was delighted to know that myself. So traditionally, the log is placed in the fireplace on Christmas morning, and then they order the log to poop out its various treats like nuts and dried fruit, which is pretty much like the worst risk versus reward ratio possible when you really think about it. But the tradition has evolved, and these days, the log is capable of pooping more elaborate gifts than just fruits and nuts. I know you're thinking talent. I was thinking that. But also, since not everyone has a fireplace, the children have to find other ways to basically um, compel their magic wood to go to the bathroom festively all over them. So the aforementioned beating of the log often serves to get all of the precious poo out. But singing a song also works. Did you know that? I did not know that. So I actually found some lyrics to the Tio de Nadal song. So I know you're going to try to hold back from singing along. I'm not going to sing it, but I will tell you. It's kind of interesting. And all surprising, not too surprising because, well, what else? So, and these are actual words. So it goes poop log, poop, hazelnuts and cottage cheese. If you don't poop well, I'll hit you with a stick. Poop log. Log. There you go. Wow. I mean, second verse same as the first. I'm sure that if I could find the other chorus to it, I would try to like play it for you. But I'm sure Katie would probably get mad at me if I did. But I know there's probably something that's completely lost in translation here, but pure poo poetry just at the same time. So saying goodbye to our fecal friends over here, who fecal philiacs, which if that's your thing, Christmas caroling, which most people would think is a completely normal thing to do, right? Christmas caroling, you're going to go get together with some friends and you're going to go sing songs about the holidays, and you're maybe going to get some hot chocolate or be offered some candies or get a donation for the charity that you're singing for. In 17th century Britain, Christmas was mostly an excuse to actually drink a lot, like really a lot. People would go door to door to the most affluent or wealthiest townspeople and whisper, taunt, and sing vicious threats in groups. And as they went along, they'd collect more people, so these groups would turn into mobs. And to this day, some villages actually still have people that go and do this as kind of a boon for the holiday season, and it's done on a lark. But in 17th century Britain, these guys were serious. It turned into all kinds of stuff. They'd go to people's homes, like people that they would actually know of during the year and actually have friendly relationships with. And they'd have lyrics like, "Don't worry, there's no poo involved. We've come to claim our due. So open the door or you'll end up on the floor." I know it's not like Longfellow or anything, but it's kind of like an early trick-or-treating, but with the intent to brawl or break things. So if you didn't come to the door once these people were coming to your door singing or taunting or whatever, and give them wine or give them, mulled cider or something like that, that they would trash your house or trash you in front of your house. And then it would turn into a brawl. So like I said, it's kind of like trick-or-treating with alcohol and fights. It's like, wow, I thought that, and this is where traditional caroling actually comes from, is that they would go and wassail. And wassail actually was not an innocent drink. It actually could knock any one of us on our rear ends. But now it's something pretty innocent unless you add like one of the season's best liqueurs or whatever to it and make it more potent. But because I'm not going to be like serving alcohol to random people at my doorstep. That's just way too much of a liability for me. But that's just me being cautious sometimes. So the next thing on our list, because who doesn't like Christmas without death? You gotta have a little death in Christmas, right? Saturnalia falls around the same time as the Christmas holidays. And the ancient feast of Saturnalia, where there would be much celebration, imbibing, eating, feasting, praying to Saturn, and trying to get him to do your bidding, or turn the tides of your business or your love or other things. That the whole of the temple of Saturnalia would actually figure out somebody that they would choose for a ritual human sacrifice. And this actually happened not all that long ago. A lot of people still talk about whispers of human sacrifice, but this one is especially gnarly because Saturn is a pretty gnarly god. But you can breathe easy because they're never going to choose you, because it's usually a priest from the temple itself, because, Saturn likes his own, I guess. But if you want to be disemboweled for God purposes, there you go. The next one on our list, mistletoe. That kissing under the mistletoe is one of the biggest holiday cliches in histories. And as traditions go, way beyond an innocent little holiday peck on the cheek at the office party or at your Christmas celebration. The tradition actually goes back to ancient times, because mistletoe's being a vibrant symbol of virility because of all of its colors and everything else, that people would actually use it around their house so that it would bring fertility. It would bring prosperity. People would make candles and things out of our holiday little sachets out of it. Even though mistletoe really doesn't have it has kind of a woody sage-like smell, kind of, if you've ever smelled fresh mistletoe. But when you're kissing under the mistletoe, you have to think of why they do what they're doing. And kissing under the mistletoe, they kiss by the mistletoe, and it wasn't for the purposes of being cheeky and flirty. It was to get people to be able to perform better virility, with their virility, and be able to have babies fertility wise. So for guys to be more virile and for girls to be more fertile, and for other reasons. That mistletoe is also known as the god killer. It's also been known, well, that's only due to Balder, but that's basically a crazy story for another time, but because we're talking about Christmas and everything. But the sticky white sap that comes from the mistletoe plant is really the reason why they call it what it is. And they basically call the contents the semen of the gods. Not kidding. So next time you're kissing under the mistletoe or anything else, make sure that it's clear. Let's just say that. Let's just make sure that it's plastic, because gross. Christmas cards have taken a turn over the centuries. I don't know if any of you have actually seen antique cards. Some of them are pretty interesting looking, but the more I actually went through family cards and stuff, I actually noticed that they got creepier the further back you went. And as of the fact that you never really think anything of it, because you get cards from your grandma, you get cards from your friends and things like that. You think it's all innocent. But in 1848, Christmas was celebrated by the Queen of England. She put her tree up, she addressed everybody, and cards started to be used as a political tool to spread rumor or depict starving people in winter streets, drawing of dead animals, anything to disturb any kind of Christmas cheer. Not only were the words strange most times, but the pictures were definitely not cheery. So You've got dead frogs, you've got dead this and that, whatever, because people were chiding over the fact that the queen had everything and everybody was walking around not having things. They were not able to feed their families. They were not able to do this or that. And so people were like, well, the queen has all these things. She's able to put up a tree. She bought a tree. She's able to put presents underneath it. And, you know, because it wasn't really celebrated as a religious holiday. It was celebrated as a social holiday. So the next time you look at your Christmas cards or your holiday cards, you can look and see, oh, these are pretty tame in comparison to other things that we could be talking about. But the next thing that we move on to, because we did talk about caroling earlier, and the thing that went through my head was Good King Wenceslas. Most of you know the carol. I'm not going to sing it, but I just have to sing it and say the words, and you're going to know the next line usually, right? Everybody knows the carol. But the real story is way more Game of Thrones than Uno with your drunken Aunt Sally. Wenceslas was actually the Duke of Bohemia. Well, which in that we know is the Czech Republic now. But when the Duke's father had died, his family, I'll try to keep this short, was thrown into a power struggle between the Christian side and the pagan side. His grandmother, Ludmila, and his mother, Dragomir. There was a big blood feud. And when it came to light, politically, that his grandmother was trying to overthrow his pagan mother, Wenceslas had her quickly executed. Quickly and publicly, excellent. I mean, it was interesting. So he became champion of Bohemian Christianity. It made him a very powerful duke, where the song originates, all bright and cheery, until his brother, Vladislaus the Cruel, actually murdered him. So he had a little bit of a reign. He had some fame. There was a song written about him, which I'm sure annoyed him until he actually died, because that would have killed me, that song being sung ad nauseum. But for his brother to kill him to rule, but then Vladislaus had an interesting end as well. So so every time you hear that song, you can think about Game of Thrones. You're welcome. Now, my final one I will tell you about, children, is Christmas stockings. A lot of people talk about Christmas stockings like it's this big thing that it's all happy. We put stuff in our Christmas stockings, and it's so happy and bright and cheery. But the origin of Christmas stockings is a little more dark. Okay, it's a lot more dark. So the European legend goes, a widower and his daughters were pushed to the point of desperation and poverty. It was so bad that the daughters had no hope, and this was all the daughters at the time, had no hope for finding husbands, for there was no money for family treasures, for a proper dowry for any of them. Because even if one of them were to land some kind of husband, that would have helped provide for the family at the time. Because, you know, long ago, women weren't allowed to own property. We weren't allowed to do anything but, you know, cook and make it look good and have children. That was it, pretty much. So you were property and being passed off to some guy that could basically help your family was in your family's best interest to find you somewhere to go and some guy to give you over to. But you had to have a means or a reason to push him over into wanting to keep you around besides you looking awesome. So your dad had to have something to offer this guy. So this guy had nothing. So these guys were basically, it means that the daughters would face a life of prostitution or death by starvation, because there's really no other way to paint this. No husbands, no money, basically. Saint Nicholas heard their plight. He heard by rumor of their plight, basically, through the town. but had heard their father wouldn't accept a handout. So St. Nicholas poured the coins down the chimney, and some actually fell into a stocking that was drying by the fireside. Through this, the ladies were able to marry and not starve or sully their reputations, which is equally, it starts out dark and then moves lighter. So it's a happy ending without the happy ending. They didn't have to sully themselves. They were able to marry off. And it makes me wonder how much St. Nick gave, because there was more than one daughter. And during the time, raising children would have cost money, and you'd need to take care of your dad too. So that's just interesting to me. So basically, in our happy ending without the happy ending, there's cultural, social, and religious, nay, moral in all of these tales. So basically, what they're saying is to do your chores, keep your nose clean, say your prayers, listen to your parents, keep your house clean, don't be a lazy woman, I guess. I know that's so sexist. And you'll be rewarded. If not, you better watch out. And you better not cry. And you know why. I don't have to say the rest of it, because that'd just be too cheesy. But all of these have impact. I mean, from the beginning to the end, they're all creepy, scary. If you're a little kid and I tell you about the giant cat that's wants you to be wearing new clothing, or you're going to be murdered and eaten, or not eaten, but going to eat all of your Christmas candy and because you're not wearing new clothes, or that the owners of said cat are going to basically annoy you with their want of creeping around and pot licking or spoon licking of your goods. And then their parents are the ones I think that you really got to look out. So the parents and the cat, definitely, those guys are interesting. But for the good and the bad, our traditions have helped mold us or make us the people that we are. I know that we all have good and bad thoughts about holiday seasons and the things that happen during the holiday season, and time and tide. It all depends on the times that we've been through, and some people have had awesome childhoods and awesome upbringings and things like that, and they've never had to see a bad day, and that's great for them. But you have all these other tales of why you would want to not do bad things, or it just kind of speaks heaps on human condition, doesn't it? Morals, amoral, to do good, to do bad. It's all pretty relative too. So my good and bad is different than your good and bad. So in leaving this, you have to think, our Christmas traditions, are they, trying to get people or children to do what we want, or to manipulate people basically, into doing what we want them to do by scaring them on purpose? Or so you have to realize people's scare levels, and this coming from me, that knowing that some people frighten pretty easily for no reason, that telling them that some cryptid named Krampus is going to come after them, to me is, I don't know, it might be a little terrifying for those people, but kind of interesting. Like I said, it's a pretty awesome kind of horror movie kind of way thing. I'm sure that if I saw Krampus at my door, like I said, it'd be interesting. I'd probably be taken aback for a second and then be fangirling over Krampus, going, yeah, right on. But anyway, thank you so much again for hanging with Tripping the Void here on the beginning of our holiday season here on Late Night in the Midlands Radio. I want to say thank you to Michael Vera for making this all possible, and thank you to the Neelys for their hard work and everything that they put in. Katie Neely is my producer here on the show, and I know she tirelessly works for a lot of people too, so I know she doesn't like people to thank her all of the time, but I do really thank her for being there, because first live show of Saturday. Well, I'm actually second live show, but when she actually has to be fairly awake for now, right? So thank you again to everybody who works here in the background crew of Late Night in the Midlands, and thank you, Late Night in the Midlands Radio Network, and looking forward to what the holiday season brings, and stay tuned for our next show that we have up here on Late Night in the Midlands Radio or lnmradio.com, and we'll be seeing you later. So thanks for listening to Tripping the Void. This is Saraphine Hurley. Enjoy your weekend. This has been Late Night in the Midlands, Tripping the Void with Saraphine Hurley. I know I enjoyed the trip. Until next time, Saraphine Hurley with Tripping the Void. Later.